wanted to welcome everybody to our second class in the Ashtavakra Gita, experiencing the essence of the Ashtavakra Gita. So you're welcome to all of you other, if you didn't see the first class on this series, you can catch it on our YouTube channel here as you look back in on the Las Vegas Vedanta Center YouTube channel. And all of our talks from all of the Swamis and all of our classes are there. So if you missed anything, certainly you can pick it up. And there's some wonderful talks by Swami Vivekananda as well, Swami Vivekananda as well, all of the Sarvadevanandaji, Ishakanandaji, many Swamis are on there. So we're really proud and happy to have all of these wonderful talks here at our beloved Las Vegas Center. So let's begin with a chant. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to mortality. Om, peace, peace. So again, welcome to everyone. As we said last week, this class is a little different than some of the classes perhaps that are done on the Ashtavakra Gita, because many of us have taken time to read scriptures, and we've listened to classes, and we've studied and read the books, maybe taken notes, but we've always been using our mind. And as we see on the classes that have been done, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, are the three steps to learning. And so hearing is the first step. And so a lot of us have done that. We've listened to wonderful lectures. We've heard amazing expositions, and sometimes even from people of realization, if we're blessed to be able to hear something with a realization from the lips of somebody, we're really blessed to be able to hear that. Manana is really running it through in your mind, as we said last class. And this is pretty much what a lot of us have been doing. We read the scriptures, we think about the scriptures, we try to dissect the scriptures, we try to understand them with our mind, manana, manas, the mind, the thinking principle. And so that can take you some place to be able to have some familiarity with these concepts. But it doesn't mean that we have realized these truths. We haven't let them absorb into us. We haven't become one with these truths, or we haven't really just experienced them for ourselves in reality, in an experiential way. Nididhyasana is that experiential where you actually can say, I've had this experience of truth. It wasn't a mental thinking, it wasn't a concept. And ideally, samyama, it's not a subject-object experience, where it's not you experiencing or thinking something. In this state with this type of thought, it's actually just you're not even aware that you are separate. You become one with that truth. You realize what it is. It's something that is lived. It's expressed through you. So there's no difference between you and that truth. And especially when we're talking about the Ashtavakra Gita, which is the highest of non-dualism, it's a very, very lofty subject. And I do want to kind of send this warning out. Not a warning, I suppose, but remember what I said last week, and that is Sri Ramakrishna didn't let any of his disciples but Swami Vivekananda even read this book. He kept it hidden. He kept it away from everybody. And it only was brought out when everybody was gone and only his beloved Niran was there. And then they would read it together. So only Swami Vivekananda was allowed to even read the Ashtavakra Gita. So, and traditionally, all those who have not given up the world in India were not qualified to be in the non-dualistic camp of study even. So mostly it was sadhus. People had given up home life, given up everything. Because when you're actually diving deep into these realities, unless you're just thinking about it intellectually, you're really surrendering absolutely every conception, every mental separation, anything you can own, anything you can call your own, everything is surrendered in this path. And so This is the experience of the Ashtavakra Gita. And so, that's why Srimad Krishna is such an amazing, amazing, profound teacher. Because for him, all approaches to God were perfect and eventually lead to what we're talking about here. But it's not something that people have to rush into. If this isn't a comfortable kind of exercise to really do this, not to think about it. It's easy to take a class on something and think about it. But to really do this, if this isn't comfortable, really follow any of the 4 yogas. Bhakti, karma are very, very wonderful yogas that allow us to become purified, to allow us to have that feeling of devotion. Working without selfish motivation, being selfless in work as best we can, or just loving something so dearly that you don't even feel yourself anymore. You love it so much that the only thing that exists is that beautiful conception of God, of Divine Mother, of Thakur, Sri Ramakrishna, or any Ishta, or any deity that is dearest to your heart. This is bhakti. You're losing yourself in that love, adoration of what you hold dearest in your heart. These are easy paths. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. Bhakti is the easy path for the Kali Yuga. For those who are brave of heart and taking that mountain path, going up to non-dualism, this is the Ashtavakra Gita. This is Advaita, and that's what it truly is. So this is something that we'll use, as I said before. We want to use all the 4 yogas to prepare ourselves, to push our minds, push our emotions, push all of our ego to the side as best we can, so that when we do actually read the Ashtavakra Gita, we can experience its truths, because it really is an Nididhyasana scripture, as Swami Vivekananda described it. It's really coming from that point of view of experience. It's not an intellectualization of an ideal or an idea. It's really just the expression of this one truth. That is what you are. You are that. You exist as that. That's all that exists, is that. So this is really, really the idea here in this class. So hopefully we're going to do this over and over again, because I found that, we have taken lifetimes to get our minds working the way they are now, keeping something separate from us, everything separate, creating all of this division, and giving ourselves these thoughts, and giving ourselves these egos and these emotions. To unlearn that and release them is not such a simple thing. You can't do it in one class or one sitting. It takes a while sometimes. Of course, for some of those blessed beings that don't, they just instantly have this amazing experience, and they have this melting into one, as Swami Vivekananda described it very, very well when things like this happen to him. So let us use the 4 yogas. I thought we would chant a little bit. And as we did before, why? Why would we chant? Because chanting takes you away from your mind. You can't really think so much about chanting. It takes you into your heart, and it takes you into your being. And so we're going to chant Om Namah Shivaya, which is in our little book here. It's a Krishna Das song, so apologies to Krishna Das. But so we'll chant this. The words, of course, Om Namah Shivaya, are very sacred in India. And Shiva, of course, is the embodiment of non-dualism, of the ultimate non-dualist state of destruction of everything that's unreal. And, in Kali and Shiva, we won't go into the Kali Murti, but it's a perfect image of what Shiva is, that substratum, Turiya state of just awareness. And so this is a chant to Shiva, so it's very appropriate. But it's also a great way to just start and to come out of our days. Saturday afternoon is when this class is being given here at our beautiful Las Vegas Center, Las Vegas Vedanta Center in Summerlin, Las Vegas, Summerlin, Nevada here. So we'll start with this, and then we'll move on to a few other things. Okay, so let me see if I can remember. Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya Namaha. 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 Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Om Namo 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 Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah 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 Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Om Namo 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 Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Bija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Bija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Bija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Om Namo Shivaya. So we'll have some time for more meditation a little bit later in this class. But what we wanted to kind of give you is first some takes on this topic of non-duality. And remember that there's different states, the four yogas. You have dualistic worship, Dvaita, where you are separate from that which you love, that which you adore, that which you worship. And that's a very common and normal thing for all of us. Maybe we came up with a religious background in worship, whether Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist. This is in some of the states of these religions. a separation of you and the divine is normal, and you are adoring that divine, or you're created by that divine, or you're a child of that divine. Then as you get a little bit closer, you find the Nishtha Dvaita. So you find that you are a part of that. So that's a part, or you are part of this great being. So not totally separate, but part of this being, part of this divine being. And so this is even a closer relationship. And of course, the Advaita, where there's no dualism, no separation, there is an object and subject. It's just one. And there is no separation. There's nothing else that can be. There's only that one. So there's different steps to these, and there's different stages, and people can be comfortable in whatever path they take. And that's the beauty of Hinduism, in my opinion, and especially Ramakrishna's explaining of it, is that there's a path for every temperament in this religion. And it's been codified by the sages for millennia and written down. Whatever your path is has been trodden by great beings of that path. And they show you all of their guidance and how to purely tread that path. And if you purely have devotion for an image of God or a conception of God, whether it has form or no form, that's wonderful. And there's a wonderful way to get closer to that, more purely loving that without selfish motive. And then that becomes real to you. This is beautiful. This is part of this path. And so at certain times, there's the distinction between you and this one you love is blurred. And only that is there. You feel only that. Thou, thou, thou. That's the next step, where there's this beautiful integration with that which you love. And then, of course, Advaita is that place where, those who have, as Ramakrishna described it before, love God so much that they don't want to have any separation at all. They just are ready to surrender everything, give up absolutely everything, and merge completely. They don't want to have anything separating from them, from that divinity. And that's what the Ashtavakra Gita is really about. But I thought I'd read some of these things like we did last week. I won't read so many as last week, but these are kind of really sweet that can bring us into a mental attunement of step by step, this idea of closer and closer to the divinity that we think about. And this is Hari talking to Sri Ramakrishna. Hari is one of the disciples who became, was a monastic disciple. So let's talk about this. He said, "Why is there so much suffering in the world?" Hari asked Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna said, "This world is the lila of God. It is like a game. In this game, there is sorrow and joy, virtue and vice, knowledge and ignorance, good and evil. The game cannot continue if sin and suffering are altogether eliminated from creation. In the game of hide and seek, one must touch a granny in order to be free. But the granny is never pleased if she is touched at the very outset. It is God's wish that the play should continue for some time. Then, 1 out of 100,000 kites, at best but 1 or 2 breaks free. And thou dost clap thy hands, O mother, watching them. In other words, after the practice of hard spiritual discipline, 1 or 2 have the vision of God through his grace and are liberated. Then the Divine Mother claps her hands in joy and exclaims, 'Bravo, there they go.' And Hari said, 'But this play is the death of us. This play of God is our death.' Master smiling, 'Please tell me who you are.' 'God alone has become all this. Maya, the universe, living beings, the 24 cosmic principles. As the snake I bite, as the charmer I cure. This is God himself, who has become both vidya and avidya. He remains deluded by the maya of avidya, ignorance. Again, with the help of the guru, he is cured by the maya of vidya, or knowledge. Ignorance, knowledge, and perfect wisdom. The jnani sees that God alone exists and is the doer, that he creates, preserves, and destroys. The vijnani sees it as God who has become all this." So this is something that really I've come to really revere in the Ramakrishna's world of this explanation. There's jnanis who are like Shankara's jnana. We think about that, where thou art that. There is nothing but God. This world's a dream. Neti neti. Not this, not this. This world is absolutely a dream. Only that reality exists. It's an amazing high peak to reach. But Sri Ramakrishna went further to Vijnana, and Swami Vivekananda has some books to read if you're interested to go deeper into this. But once you have experienced that, the next step is to see that even this world is nothing but Brahman, is nothing but that same awareness, that consciousness. There is no duality there. So that brings appreciation to what is here. Everything is consciousness, everything. There's not any separation from that and this. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna terms as Vijnana. And it's something very important that that can really, I think the world will understand more and more through the ages. And it'll come through the people like Swami Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda, Devananda, and all these amazing teachers we have in our order. This is something that's interesting too. Some people like to just think about the same thing is said in so many different places. So we like to kind of bring different traditions into this. You know, it's not a monopoly of just one group or Sri Ramakrishna or Swami Vivekananda. In our order, in the Vedanta Society, we revere all teachers and all teachings because they're saying exactly the same thing. So we always like to bring some other points of view that are just showing that it's saying the same thing. In the Ribhu Gita, this is something that Sri Ramana Maharshi was read to him, and it's an amazing book because it has the same the point of view as the Ashtavakra Gita. Maybe we'll do a class on the Ribhu Gita at some point. But here's what the Ribhu Gita says. Remain as he in which there are no fears for hell, no joys for heaven, no worlds of God, the creator, nor other gods, no object to be obtained from them, no other world, no universe of any kind, and always be happy without a trace of thought. And this is from the Ribhu Gita. That's so beautiful. It's saying exactly the same thing. That's why it's funny, Mandukya Upanishad, all these Upanishads, you can study them till you're blue in the face, but they're simple. They say the same thing in so many ways. But if we can't learn how to surrender to that, then we'll never have any experience of that. So that's kind of what I've heard a lot of the monks in our order are really talking about now, which is a really great, wonderful thing. And we're inspired by these great teachers we have around us. This is another short reading from the Ribhu Gita. So remain as one in which there is no need to listen to teachings, reflect and practice, no meditation to do, no difference between oneself and what is else, no internal contradiction, no words or their meanings, and always be happy, free from even the slightest trace of thought. Amazing, amazing, very, very high and lofty. I mean, if you can just meditate on that alone and make samyama on that, become one with that, that would be enough. There wouldn't be any reason for anything else. There's, especially when it talks about free from teachings, free from readings. This is, once that state is there, there's really no reason to continue to pour that in from outside. This is actually beautiful. And we'll finish with this little story of Ramana Maharshi. Somebody had written this when they met him. And I'll just read this to you guys. It's a beautiful story of how you think that what happens when somebody has this state of awareness, this awareness of they are that. Do they move around in the world? Of course, we have Sri Ramakrishna's stories of how he was in the world. This is also a very beautiful one of Ramana and what happened to him after. This is somebody's experience with him. I'll read it, and then we'll dive right into the Gita. And we've got one other thing we're going to bring out today, too. The year was 1948, and I was in my 39th year and lived in Madras with my wife and 4 children. I was the branch manager of a large British firm, and in happy circumstances. I felt no need for any religious practice or spiritual inquiry, and was content with enjoying the good things of life. I was on a tour of small towns with one of the inspectors underneath me, Sri Partashari. It was a hot April day. We were boarding the train at Villapuram to go to Thiruvannamalai. We noticed a young man of about 25 trying to enter the first-class compartment by the next door. The man was so fat that he heaved his bulky body this way and that, while another man on the platform, obviously his servant, pushed him through the door. He was also so ashamed at the curious way the people were on the platform looking at him, including Sri Pasukari and myself, watched his predicament. He got in somehow and occupied the cubicle next to ours. When the train had run for some minutes, he came into our cabin and introduced himself as Ratidal Primachand Shah and started talking. Sri Ratital was a Shura Shastra Vyashya. Maybe I'm saying this wrong, sorry. Forgive me for being unfamiliar with some of this. Born and brought up in the Gondal and the only son of a rich merchant. He was married 6 years ago. Since his 10th year, he had been cursed with so much body fat that now at 25, he was a huge mass of flesh and misery. Oh, how he wished to get rid of that fat and be a man. In the last week of March, Sri Ranital had a vision in his sleep at night. He saw an ascetic smiling and beckoning him. The smile and the beckoning persisted for a long time and stood clearly before Sri Ranital's mental eye when he awoke. He did not speak to anyone about the vision. 2 days later, his wife was reading a Gurujati magazine. Looking over her shoulder, he saw the picture of the ascetic and he had seen in his vision. He came to know that the ascetic was Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. He at once went to his father and arranged for a journey to Tirumalai with the trusted family servant. All he knew about Bhagavan was what that Gurujati article had said. But he felt sure that his suffering would end as soon as he reached Bhagavan. And the smile and the beckoning of his vision of Bhagavan had given him that firm faith. Sri Bhaktivati had seen Bhagavan many times before and had also read a good deal about him. This was the companion of this gentleman. He and Sri Ranital talked about Bhagavan during the whole 2-hour journey. I was apparently reading an English novel, but heard their conversation with interest and attention. At Tirumalai station, Sri Ranital was received by a local merchant with whom his father had arranged for his stay. Sri Pashrafari and I proceeded to the traveler's bungalow. It was 4 when we had our bath and tiffin. Sri Pashrafari knew that I was very businesslike and would not waste a single minute. He said we could visit the market. He was very surprised at my reply. I said, "No, Pashrafari, we shall go to have darshan of Maharshi first. Then, if time permits, we shall go to the temple. Let business wait." It was about 5 when Sri Pashrafari and I entered the ashram. Going around Bhagavan's mother's samadhi, we came to the veranda by its side. About 50 people were sitting there. Sri Ranital, his host, and his servants included. Bhagavan was not on the couch, as usual. The visitors talked in whispers, trying to find out where he was. After waiting some 10 minutes and finding that Bhagavan had not come to his seat, Sri Pashrafari suggested to me that we should go in the meantime, go around and see the Goshala and other places. Finishing our inspection, we returned to the veranda by another side. Then we heard a childish voice saying, "Chi, Ashati, Phi, you creature." We could see no children around and therefore peeped in to find the source of the voice. We observed movement among the leaves of the brinjal, ladyfingers, and other plants in the kitchen garden near the veranda. Looking more intently, we saw a small goat, a little monkey, and a squirrel, and Bhagavan, Ramana Maharshi. Bhagavan was sitting on his haunches with his legs folded up to his breast. The goat nestled between his knees. The monkey had its head resting on his right knee. The squirrel was perched on his left knee. Holding a packet of paper in his left palm, Bhagavan picked ground nuts from it, and with his right hand fingers, one by one, fed the goat, the monkey, and the squirrel and himself by turns. His remarks appeared to have been addressed to the monkey, which had been trying to snatch the nut he was trying to place between the squirrel's lips. As we watched, the 4 companions went on enjoying the eating. All 4 seemed to be equally happy. The way they looked at one another and kept close together was touching. The goat, the monkey, the squirrel, and Bhagavan had completely, obviously forgotten their differences of species. And we too, looking on, saw the 4 only as good friends, despite the differences in their forms. No words can describe the feelings which passed through my being at that sight. The vision of the transcendent appeared as a flashing of lightning and revealed to me the essence of being, awareness, and bliss, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. The nuts were over. Bhagavan threw the paper away and said, "Pagoda, go away, you fellows," just like any old man speaking to his grandchildren. The goat, the monkey, and the squirrel left. Bhagavan made to get up. Sri Pashrafari and I hurried away, feeling guilty of trespassing into the divine, but not sorry. Soon after Sri Pashrafari and I had resumed our seats on the veranda, Bhagavan came to his couch. I cannot say he looked at us. He stood facing us, his eyes fixed on something far above and beyond anything on earth. They were like screens which shut the material world off from the light which was burning behind them. Sparks of light shot through those fibers of the screens at times, sparks which cooled the eyes on which they fell, pierced the gross coverings and lightened the wick inside them. Bhagavan reclined on the pillows, placed on the couch, supporting his head on his left palm. We all sat down and looked at his face. We sat and looked and looked. No one spoke or made any noise, but the confrontation was not a dead silence. It was a very live experience in which the inmost being of each of us communed with the supreme consciousness, which was Bhagavan. So that is sweet. So this is the idea of life, of communing with everything as spirit, as the divine. It's not separate from ourselves. So that we don't have to be afraid of not, to becoming a lump of nothing and just sitting there. The experience of being in the world in that state, I can't even imagine it. It's amazing. But to read of the great ones that have that experience is always a blessing. One thing I found, it's an interesting fact. These are what the languages of the world are supposed to be as far as how old they are. And this kind of gives you an idea of why the Indian legends and the Tamil legends are so profound. Because they say Sanskrit and Tamil are over 5,000 years old, actually older than that. But they say that they're the oldest of the languages in the earth today. Hebrew, they say, is 3,000 years old. Latin, 2,700 years old. Egyptian, 2,006 to 2,000 years old. Greek, 1450 BC, it says. Chinese, and Arabic, and Korean, etc. So the languages in which these scriptures are written gives you some indication as to the ancient nature of the civilization that had brought these ideas to awareness. So that's why we say that, and Swami Vivekananda ji always says that the Indian civilization is the longest continuous civilization in the world. It's still existing. Its philosophies and its teachings, its language are uninterrupted and continue from the ancient times all the way to today, where all the other ancient civilizations, Babylon, Egypt, and all these other contemporary civilizations of India are no longer with us. So we don't have anybody to explain their teachings, their mysteries, their symbolism. They're sadly lost to us. But we do have living examples that do teach us, in the language of Sanskrit and Tamil are still alive with us. So this is a real blessing to the world. And so perhaps one of the reasons why this subject is a little different than we have on the West. Okay, so let's go into, this class will be a lot quicker than the last one, so we're going to be able to cut through a lot of the things. The last class gave a lot of the groundwork. I do want to just give a few things that can help, that I found just for me. And I'm struggling through, I'm just a beginner, I'm just starting this thing. I started when I was 17, but 48 years is nothing, of trying to absorb this. That's just the beginning, right? So that's why we really appreciate the great instructors, the great teachers we have in all of the traditions around us, and we revere all of them, because there are those who have real realization. They're not people looking out of their eyes at everybody else, with them separated from everyone else. They're not. That's not their reality. The reality is different than that, and it's hard to imagine because we're not used to that. But there are those who have that state of awareness, and so we, that's something that I think becomes real to us at some point. So this is what we're talking about. What is it that creates a separate us? And this is what the great one teachers say. The I thought was the first thing. And there's teachings, and I don't want to read so many teachings today. But the I thought is the first occurrence of separation. And from the I thought, there's thought, and there's identification with a body. There's many bodies, not just this one. So there's identification with some body, a causal body, an astral body, physical body, emotional bodies. So this separation then becomes a very long connection, that we are now separate and we have these bodies. And so we have to, now at the state that we are at, and we talked about this last time, we come through millions of years of evolution to get to where we are now. Millions of incarnations, millions, as a gas, as a mineral, as some single cell organisms, as now a multi-cell organism. Then, in the seed, you have all of these kind of organisms that grew till finally plants came about, where it's a separate living form. Then you have moving life. Then you have more and more evolved life. But most of these were, they have instinct. They weren't thinking. They're going on a kind of an intuitional, kind of a mass karma type of a movement. And they're more and more complex until they get to the mammal. A mammal is a moving, living being that procreates and so on, has hunger, has emotions. As you know, anybody who's observed an animal, they have instinct. They're not really thinking, although they're kind of on the borderline. Anybody who has had a dog or a family pet know that they're very clever sometimes. They're very clever. And even pigs and so on. Whales, dolphins have tremendous intelligence, but not reasoning. They say that it took a lot of evolution specific to man to have the brain's capacity to be able to start to reason, to think, to reflect on its own existence, to start to have conclusions, these things that you not just go on instinct, but take this experience and then put it together with this experience, and now they're going to do something different for this experience. That's not something that comes easily to an animal. And so this has been evolved to where we can actually have our thinking become very, very advanced, to where we can have abstract thoughts. That's why in the cave paintings, you see all these beautiful paintings way back, tens of thousands of years ago, to see these beautiful cave paintings that they found. Constructions, beautiful, amazing, huge megalithic constructions. So man has developed this ability to reason over countless lifetimes. And now it's become very, very much a part of ourselves. But the problem is that all of these things are separate. They are objects, as all of the great books are telling us. So what are objects? Of course, this is an object, right? This is easy to understand. Anything around us is an object. It's not us. That's an easy one. Okay, what about our body? That's a harder one, but if you really reason it out, this body hasn't been the same. When it was born, it was a baby, and then it got older, and now it's has pain, and then it gets older and older, and that can't be us, because that thing kind of comes and goes, and then it passes away. So it's a little easier to say, okay, I'm not this body. Then it gets a lot more difficult the more we go internally, inward. The next thing would be emotions. Our emotions, think about it. We identify with our emotions. If we're angry, we are angry, right? I'm angry, or I'm happy, or I want something. I have a desire, or I'm jealous, or I have this. All these emotions come and go. And so we identify with them. But how do we unidentify? It's quite simple then. If you can see that they always are changing, there's always one emotion replaced by another one. There's never one that's constant. So how can we be that if there's no consistency there? There's nothing that stays as emotional forever. That's why it says in this world, for every joy, there's a pain. For every pain, there's a joy. There's never consistency. So if you take that approach to it, it's easy to start to surrender those emotions. That's not us. That's not me. So that's a very big step. Then comes the big one. Then comes the huge one, thought. Our thoughts. We really think that we are the author of our thoughts. We own our thoughts. These are our thoughts. Last week we read a little story that Thakur Sri Ramakrishna told about Radha became very proud of writing these beautiful verses, and Shiva decided that he was going to take him down a notch, and the bull Nandi, and came kind of a growl, and he looked at his teeth, and each teeth was scripture. And all of the scriptures that he had written were already on the teeth of Nandi the bull. And he realized that all these scriptures existed before he created them. So he became humbled, and he said, okay, I'm not the author of these things. They've existed throughout time. They're not something authored by me. So this is a very important hint. All of the thoughts that have ever been thought, including all of ours, have always been existing. They're not something that we created. We tuned into them, we identified with them, but all these thoughts, and it's stated many, many times, are universal. All thought is universal. It's not singular to us. This is really hard, and I think this is probably one of the last steps to awakening, in that where you cannot own your thoughts. Remember becoming a sannyasi, you don't own anything? Well, not owning your thoughts is a big one. That's why they say the external renunciation is not as important as the internal. Renouncing your thoughts and realizing the truth is that they're not yours releases the attachment to them, and it gives you a separation from your thoughts, and from your thoughts to your ego, and that's why they always talk about inner reflection. Find that which you are. Now we know that you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not your body, you're not the 24 cosmic principles, all of these founding thoughts of creation. So what are we? We are that awareness that is eternal, that isn't confined by space or time or causation. It never came into being. It never will have an ending. It's eternally existent, infinite, without end, without end. And when Srimad Krishna wrote about his experience of Kali, when he had this finally this awakening with Kali, he described that same experience. And of course, when he was with Todapuri, it was a complete non-dual experience. So this is it, this idea of releasing one by one all the things that we are not, can only happen when it's right for us, when it's right for us. Otherwise, it could be painful and dangerous. For somebody who is still trying to find solidity and trying to control their life, for them to go into this state of thought early is really kind of not helpful, because they will become more unsure and more unable to handle just simple things, and that's it. Srimad Krishna talked to when he was talking to some of the great devotees that were around him. He said, if I take you any further, you won't be able to keep your organization, you won't be able to keep your family, you won't be able to keep your business. And they said, okay, Father, you know better than this. The Mathur was one of them. Okay, Father, you know better than this. I won't go any further than this. I'll stop here. Srimad Krishna knew who was ripe for this and who wasn't. Of course, Narendra, beautiful, wonderful Swami Vivekananda was a pure and worthy vessel for this type of thing. But this is what we talked about last week. It's really amazing that Swami Vivekananda came to the West and broadcast all of this wonderful idea that was so new to the Western ears to everyone. He didn't make a distinction of who should have it and who should not. He didn't say you need to be a complete sannyasi. He didn't say you needed to be a sadhu. He said it was time that everybody has some understanding of this in their own way, because it can create a beautiful synthesis and harmony in this world, that we are connected in more ways than we can possibly even imagine right now, that there's no separation from any being or any person or any animal or any living being. It's us. That is us. There's really no distinction. The more we can understand that, the more harmony, the more connection, the more love will be, and then all of these true peace can happen. Otherwise, it can never happen. So this is maybe why Swami Vivekananda came and really gave these beautiful Advaitic non-dual teachings to the world. Not that everybody can completely experience them, not that everybody could even understand them, but even if they had a little bit, it could make a big difference in the civilization and the world. Srimad Krishna said, take the Advaita idea, tie it in the corner of your cloth and do whatever you want to do. So this is kind of that idea. Okay, so let us go into the Ashtavakra Gita. We'll finish for sure within 1 hour of this. Now, what we're going to do is the same thing we did last time. We don't want to read this with our minds. We want to be able to be aware of this, make this become an experience. So we're going to go through a little bit of the Raja Yoga that we did last time. Remember, we're using the 4 yogas. So what we're going to do is a little pranayama. We talked about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, yama niyama, the things you should do and the things you shouldn't do. That's this basis, because if we're not living a moral life, then our conscience, our emotions aren't calm. We're not at peace with ourselves. So we have to live life according to our own principles, according to our own convictions. Then a peace starts to be possible. It's like a foundation that's laid. Then asana is posture. And so to be able to control the body is very, very important. And that's why Hatha Yoga has been formed to be able to give man the ability to control his body, just to prepare it for these future steps. So obviously we're not going to be Hatha Yogis today, but the asana is very important in that if we can keep the body stable, we can take our attention off of it. So that we're not this body, we can take attention away from it. So keeping the spine straight, if you're sitting on the chair, you can have your feet flat on the floor, you can put your arms, hands kind of with the palms upturned. But the thing is to keep the spine straight and the chin parallel to the floor. Because the spine, as they say, is kind of the highway to the infinite. There's descriptions of Thakur Ramakrishna when he had the chakras, kind of the experience of the Sushumna chakras, that was a youth that looked exactly like him, that went and touched each of these chakras as he went up the spine and opened them. And then when he got to the top of the head, he said he has been that way ever since. Basically, if you read the passage in the Kathamrita, it's an amazing description of actually what happens. So we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, but we do want to be able to keep the spine straight, because that way the energy can flow freely going up the spine, especially when it reaches it to the heart. The heart's the change of everything. If our energy can start reaching the heart, everything changes, and our heart, we experience it in terms of awareness. The lower energy in these lower chakras are more for procreation and existence and self-preservation, and all those basic thoughts are focused here, especially here in our emotions. So if we can get to the heart, that's when all of those things are left behind. And that's the beginning of the spiritual path. So we really want to be able to focus on keeping our spine straight. They say if you can put your attention at the point between the eyebrows, raise the eyes just a slight bit. Because if the eyes are forward, that's the normal everyday awareness. The thoughts are more prevalent than if your eyes are focused forward. If your eyes drop, you'll go into sleep. You'll go into subconscious mind. And if your eyes go up, then you can go into the superconscious mind. This is the beauty of asana. And I want to bring up just one simple point that we're going to bring up next week a lot. We're going to go through dream interpretation. And we'll use my dear friend, Dr. Barbara Condren, who I've known since I was 18 years old. She's an amazing person, an amazing spiritual teacher. And the idea of how we use dream interpretation will reinforce that everything is us. There's nothing outside of us, the way that the dream interpretation is designed, that it's done. I'm just going to give you the outline of it now before we go into this just quickly, and then we'll go more deeply into it next week. But the idea and the premise is that everything in your dream is a symbol of some state of your mind or your being or you. And I'll explain this. So every person in the dream is an aspect of you. And they're different parts of you. Some of them are conscious aspects, the aspects that are your everyday waking self, your person who you are when you're awake. Subconscious aspects are those influences that are subtle and are lifetime. So you have subtle things, like you have habits you bring from every lifetime. Those are subconscious because they're such deeply rooted into the self. It's a subtler self that's not just the physical body. So they say the subconscious mind kind of brings in all of the past, all the memories, all the past karmas and all that sort of thing. And then you have the superconscious self. And this is the self that is one that is they say you have the superconscious experiences. That is the one that shows and reflects the divinity of who we are. It's our soul, the jiva, the one that is reflecting that true state of who we are. It's a separate version of it, but it is reflecting that beautiful state of who we are. And then beyond that is the total connection of the Brahman. But so in this dream interpretation, every person in the dream will represent a different part of ourselves. They say that a person of the same sex is the conscious mind. So if you're a woman and you have a woman person in your dream, that's your everyday waking self. That's your normal waking life self. It's an aspect. And the personality of that person in the dream reflects that part of you. So that's part of you, your nature in that way, habits or how you express that way. If it's a separate opposite sex, it's the subconscious mind. So it's a subtle kind of an influence from you that is something that you're taking with you lifetime to lifetime. And it might be a positive thing, and it might be something not so helpful. Subconscious influences are kind of buried deep in our own awareness from lifetime to lifetime. Sometimes they're misunderstandings, and sometimes they're understandings. But it's something that we're not always aware of, and they influence us sometimes, and we're not aware of them. So it's habitual in some ways. A superconscious aspect of yourself is some form of authority in the dream. So a policeman, for example, or somebody that you would respect, your mother or your father, for example, or a spiritual teacher or a Ishta or some form of divinity would be, of course, superconscious. And of course, there's those divine experiences that are something different than normal dreams. But we're talking about, just the aspect of normal dreams. So I'm going to give you a sample of how you interpret these dreams. And this Dreamer's Dictionary, you can order on Amazon, or if you wanted to get it from us, we can go through it. Everything that's in a dream has a specific kind of interpretation in there. So first of all, the people that are there are something that you have to figure out, because only you know what that person represents to you. If the person that you have is the same sex as you, then you know what their personality is. If it's a positive person, positive part of yourself, or it's a constructive part of yourself, or it's a destructive, really negative part of yourself. If there's conflict in between you, then you know there's conflict inside of yourself with that kind of thing. But one of the things for this particular dream, I'll have to say, is food, is knowledge. It's like when you read something in maninas. So if you're reading something and you gain kind of an understanding intellectually, that's knowledge. So that's what food would be. So it's not wisdom, it's not understanding yet, but it is knowledge. It's some kind of an understanding of something. So when you're taking food, if you're eating, it means you're taking in some sort of a learning or a teaching or something intellectually, at least in your intellectual mind. So I had this dream when I started thinking about this class, and that's when I decided to bring in dream interpretation here, because if everything's part of yourself in the dream, it really reflects the idea of non-dualism. So I think that's kind of neat. So this dream I was getting ready to do these classes in the dream, and because we have these video and the TV and all that sort of thing, and I was getting ready to start start the class, and a female person came and said, we have food, it's time to eat. We have food, it's time to eat. And I was like, this is strange. I'm getting ready to do this class, and there's somebody telling me that it's time to eat. And this happened again. I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to focus on doing this class. And again, it's time to food, time to eat, food, time to eat. And if you think about what that actually means, it means that this class is about what? Non-dualism. It's about the actual experience of wisdom, of understanding. And the female was subconscious, saying you want more intellectual knowledge. It's time to just eat. It's time you can have more understanding intellectually. So it was a really great picture of, now I'm having somebody saying, okay, let's do more intellectual study. And I'm saying, no, let's focus on absorbing, experiencing these wisdom, not just thinking about things, not just going to the habits of thinking and thinking and thinking. So it was a great symbolic expression of exactly what this class is all about. What's it supposed to be differentiated is the idea of intellectualism and just reading something and get an idea of it, or actually having an experience that can change your center of awareness, change your life, change how you feel, change how you react to the world, make you less stressed, make you less confronted by the world. So this is a beautiful example of dream and how it is specifically related to you. It's not external to anybody. So does that make sense? I hope that gives a little bit of, I just wanted to introduce the concept. This is something that we used to teach when I was younger. And there's people that spent their whole lives now diving into dream interpretation and helping people really become masters of it. It's amazing. And if you ever have a conscious dream, you can actually interpret your own dream as you're going through it sometimes. It's kind of neat. So So now let's read I'll read the Gita like I did last time, but let's do the pranayama part of this. So we're sitting, we have yama, niyama, asana. Pranayama is the energy control, getting the body relaxed, taking our attention off the body, off the emotions, off the mind, and become that awareness, that pure awareness. And then I'll read this chapter of the Gita. And what I want you to do is just be in that awareness consciousness, that pure awareness consciousness, the observer, not thinking, not reflecting or trying to let your mind go, but just absorb the words into your being, into that awareness. And you'll see that it's actually painting this whole understanding, this whole experience with these the words that are in here. So like we did last time, we want to do pranayama, and it's really simple. So we're going to breathe in through the nose on a double inhalation, and at the same time, we want to start tensing the body as tight as you can. So you're going to take the inhalation, a double inhalation to the count of 10. So hold for a count of 10, and exhale through the mouth, double count of 10. And we're going to do that 3 times. Remember, inhale and intense, hold that tension for a count of 10, 10 inhale, 10 hold, and 10 exhale. And we'll do that 3 times. And once that we're done with the third one, when the breath goes out, don't try to control it, just observe it and let it stay out for as long as it wants to. And then automatically, when you start, you just have an automatic inhale. What we want you to do is mentally chant so. Remember? So. And if the breath doesn't exhale right away, just hold. And then when it of its own accord, the breath goes out, hum. So, hum. So, hum. So this is a beautiful practice that Swami Vivekananda has given in his classes. It's also a variation of what I've done for 45 years. It's an amazing way to focus that mind and get into that that observer awareness, that pure awareness. Okay, so let's try that. 3 times we'll do the inhale, tense, hold, release, and on the 3rd time we'll just do a little bit of the soham. Okay, ready? Here we go. Now exhale. Inhale. And hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Now just watch the breath, and when it wants to come in, so it wants to go out. Chapter 2, awareness. Yesterday I lived bewildered in illusion, but now I am awake, flawless and serene, beyond the world. From my light, the body and the world arise. So all things are mine, or nothing is. Now I have given up the body and the world. I have a special gift. I see the infinite self. As a wave, seething and foaming, is only water. So all creation, streaming out of the self, is only the self. Consider a piece of cloth. It is only threads. So all creation, when you look closely, is only the self. Like the sugar in the juice of the sugar cane, I am the sweetness in everything I have made. When the self is unknown, the world arises, not when it is known. But you mistake the rope for the snake. When you see the rope, the snake vanishes. My nature is light, nothing but light. When the world arises, I alone am shining. When the world arises in me, it is just an illusion. Water shimmering in the sun. A vein of silver in mother of pearl. A serpent in a strand of rope. From me the world streams out, and in me it dissolves. As a bracelet melts into gold, a pot crumbles into clay, a wave subsides into water. I adore myself. How wonderful I am. I can never die. The whole world may perish, from Brahma to a blade of grass, but I am still here. Indeed, how wonderful. I adore myself, for I have taken form, but I am still one, neither coming or going, yet I am still everywhere. How wonderful and how great my powers, for I am without form, yet till the end of time I uphold the universe. Wonderful, for nothing is mine, and yet it is all mine, whatever is thought or spoken. I am not the knower, nor the known, nor the knowing. These three are not real. They only seem to be when I am not known, for I am flawless. two from one. This is the root of suffering. Only perceive that I am one without two. Pure awareness, pure joy, and all the world is false. There is no other remedy. Through ignorance, I once imagined I was bound, but I am pure awareness. I live beyond all distinction in unbroken meditation. Indeed, I am neither bound nor free, an end to illusion. It is all groundless, for the whole of creation, though it rests in me, is without foundation. The body is nothing. The world is nothing. When you understand this fully, how can they be invented? For the self is pure awareness, nothing less. The body is false, and so are its fears. Heaven and hell, freedom and bondage. It is all invention. What can they matter to me? I am awareness itself. I see only one. Many men, one wilderness. Then to what may I cling? I am not the body, nor is the body mine. I am not separate. I am awareness itself, bound only by my thirst for life. I am the infinite ocean. When thoughts spring up, the wind freshens, and like waves, 1,000 worlds arise. But when the wind falls, the trader sinks with his ship. On the boundless ocean of my being, he founders, and all the worlds with him. Oh, how wonderful! I am the unbounded deep, in whom all living things naturally arise, rush against each other playfully, and then subside. thank you for joining our class. I encourage you to practice that technique of meditation, Soham. Spend as much time in that as you want to, or you wish to, or you feel is right for you. And in that awareness, in that observer, in that pure awareness, then if you read the Ashtavakra Gita on your own, I think, or any great scripture, I think you'll find that you tune into the inner meaning much easier. By the way, for those of you who don't know, the Heart of Awareness, the Ashtavakra Gita translation by Thomas Byram is the one that we're using. And it's you can get it through our center, the Las Vegas Vedanta Center, if you wish. All the proceeds will go right to our center. You can also order it online on Amazon and so on, if you want to join us. The same thing with the Dreamer's Dictionary by Dr. Barbara Condren. This is something you can get on, through the School of Metaphysics is publishing it, but you can get it on Amazon also. So that's a great one by Dr. Barbara Condren. Is the Dreamer's Dictionary. Thank you all for joining us. Next week we have a very special class. We have Swami Vivekanandaji here on Wednesday. On Wednesday at 5 p.m. At 6 p.m. his class will start, which is Mantram, Oneness, and Om. So this should be a very wonderful class by Swami Vivekanandaji. So I encourage you all to tune in to this channel for Swami Vivekanandaji's class at 6 p.m. Okay.